Welcome to another episode of the FTR Sisterhood. I'm your host, Stacey St. John, and as always, I just want you to know that I'm grateful for you today. Thank you for inviting me into your day. Now, before we jump into today's episode, I want to share a quote with you that I recently read that resonated with me. And it says, "The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams." And those beautiful words come to us from former First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt. Now, in this episode, we are sitting down with the queen of midterm rentals, Vivian Yip. And yes, we are diving deep into the topic of midterm rentals. You do not want to miss out. Grab your pen and your paper and take some notes. So without further ado, let's dive into my conversation with Vivian. So today we are sitting down with the queen of midterm rentals, Vivian Yip. Vivian, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks so much for having me here.
So we have a lot to unpack today, and I'm so excited to talk with you about everything midterm rentals. I know things have been changing, and I'm excited to hear from your perspective what those changes are and how they're impacting owners and hosts. But first, before we dive into that, let's just have you start off and share a little bit about who you are and where you live in the world.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm Vivian Yip. I live in Austin, Texas. This is my 10th year here, but I spent my life living in Hong Kong, in Vancouver, Toronto, Chicago. And for once, I finally have found home. I really love it here in Austin, Texas. And I worked at Apple for almost 7 years. Actually, I spent a lifetime in the corporate world. But when I decided that I didn't want to live a life in the rat race anymore, I started putting action into place and started flipping houses, wholesaling, and then eventually having enough money to keep the inventory. So we started off with our first Airbnb was a short-term rental. And then the pandemic hit. And then I realized how much Airbnb controlled my business. And I switched to monthly stays with no idea of how that was going to work out. And it turned out to be a huge success. So I sold that one Airbnb and I ended up multiplying those into numerous doors. And now I have 7 midterm rentals, plus 24 under management, plus over 200 properties in the midterm rental space under my Hestia brand.
Okay, so just a little bit of stuff going on in your world, girlfriend. Talk to me a little bit about when you realized that, hey, I don't feel comfortable with an OTA controlling my revenue. What was that thought process for you for shifting into midterm rentals? Had you heard about it from someone else? What made you decide to move to a 30-day minimum?
There's a lot of people that jumped into hosting during the pandemic times between 2021 and 2022. What they don't know is that if you were hosting reservations during 2020, Airbnb would be able to cancel your reservations no matter what the guest excuse was. Just because they didn't feel like traveling, maybe the quinceañera got canceled or the wedding got postponed, whatever it was, it would leave me with a mortgage payment that I wouldn't be able to pay because I was relying on those reservations that I had no control over. So that's when I realized that I had to diversify my income sources and not rely on a traditional OTA. Of course, I still have to lean on Airbnb. They have the largest reach and the biggest audience. But at the end of the day, if you are only focused on booking through Airbnb or VRBO, for instance, you are really putting your business at risk because not only can they cancel your reservations, but if someone decides to complain about maybe a camera that looks like a camera problem or they didn't feel safe or whatever it is, they can kick you off the platform and you have zero control over that. Signing back up is a problem. I have a friend of mine that was kicked off for some really incredibly terrible excuse. And it took her 7 tries to finally get back on the Airbnb. And that's through getting a VPN and getting, virtual assistants from different parts of the world just to get her back online again. So you have to be careful. It's not if, but it's when something is going to happen to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So interesting. And so you shifted to a 30-day minimum. How did Hestia come into play in all of this?
Hestia didn't come into play until after I sold my first short-term rental, and then I had 6. And I was like, in the sea of Airbnbs out there, I know there's a handful of really good midterm rentals out there, people that operate great properties that like these monthly stays, but there's no brand that represents monthly stays for this Airbnb space. So how do I do that? And I thought, well, I should create a network. And this network would consist of hosts that have great experience, hosts that have wonderful reviews, hosts that care about their clients, and have the great amenities required to host an extended stay. So I think a lot of people take for granted that not all Airbnbs have easy parking. Not all Airbnbs have laundry access. Not all Airbnbs have a dresser in the bedrooms that people that stay for an extended period of time need. So that's the concept of Hestia that developed over time, was how do I create a network of people that do what I do, not just in short-term rentals, but specifically in extended stay and temporary housing.
Love that. So cool. And so the houses that are on the Hestia platform, talk with me a little bit about where they're located. Are they in multiple parts throughout the country? Are they focused on certain geographies? And then if someone is interested in posting their property within the network, how does that work?
Yeah. So the first question is the Hestia platform. So first of all, Hestia is by Corporate Rentals USA. Hestia is the brand and the platform is Corporate Rentals USA. We actually have a name change coming up, which I can tell you about later on because there's a bigger vision out there. But you can go to corporaterentalsusa.com and you can find all the Hestia homes on there. There's over 200 homes on there. And if someone were to book, right now our tech is in development. So we do a very concierge style service where you can submit a housing request and someone can book a Hestia home that way. The other question is, how does someone become a Hestia home? You can go to corporaterentalsusa.com. On the top right corner, there's a button where you can join and learn more about Hestia and how to become part of our trusted network. And our trusted network is 3-phase. The phase number 1 is you apply, and then we look at your reviews, we look at your pictures, and we look at the type of housing you provide. We want single family homes only. That's our niche. Mm-hmm. The second thing is then you can talk to us, kind of go through an application process. And then if you decide to move forward, you pay your application fee. And with that application fee, we send you a bunch of onboarding things, including how to upgrade your property to the Hestia standard, how to host these extended stays. We give you a copy of our lease that we worked with an eviction attorney on that. That's a $2,000 value right there. In addition, we send an inspector to every single Hestia home. And that inspector is going through the property, making sure that the property you've advertised to us is exactly what we're selling to the people that use midterm rentals.
Awesome. Awesome. And that can be done nationwide?
Nationwide.
Awesome. So cool. So I want to go back and ask you about your own properties.
Yeah.
How have things changed for you since you took the leap and shifted to a minimum 30-day stay? How has your world changed since then? Let's start there.
I think as soon as I discovered midterm rentals, I had this aha moment. And I was like, why was I spending all this time chasing cleaners, restocking supplies, when I could host these monthly stays, give them 3 rolls of toilet paper per toilet, give them 2 rolls of paper towels, a handful of dishwasher pods, laundry pods, and garbage bags. And then I just dust my hands off and check in every now and then. Mm-hmm. And that's when I realized that I can still be in the hospitality space, but I could free up so much time to continue my journey of real estate investing and still provide a hospitality experience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's just been it's been great because I've been able to straddle both short-term rental strategy and midterm rental strategy because I bought right.
Yep.
When I
Amen.
do that, right? I had so many people that are like, I have an HOA. The rules are changing, or it used to be 30 days. Now it's 6 months, or it's now 7. I've even heard of 181 days in Florida in some places. So long story short, if you're going to get in midterm rentals or short-term rentals, buy right. For me, we avoid HOAs. And the best strategy to maximize occupancy and revenue is to do an STR, MTR hybrid strategy.
Talk to us about that. So at the beach, where I have a lot of properties in my portfolio, we do a hybrid STR, MTR strategy. It's STR first, and then during the slow season when families aren't vacationing to the beach, then we switch to MTR. I am going to guess that you do the reverse. Is that accurate?
That is 100% accurate. In my world, we have to focus on the MTR calendar first and foremost, because if we get bookings in the future, like short-term rental properties, that messes up our entire availability. So it's important for you to ensure that you're not taking advanced bookings. I know that's going to be completely crazy and worrisome for a lot of short-term rental hosts, but that is how midterm rentals work. You have to prevent advanced bookings. Lead times are short. I would say most of my bookings come in within 3 days of move-in date, but a lot of people see 2 weeks and less. And I can't even tell you how many times I've gotten same-day check-ins and they stay for months. But this is just the nature of the beast. It's a totally different client avatar.
And so how do you, in the midterm rental space, let's say someone is looking to check in for, let's say 6 months, same day. How do you screen that guest so that you have a comfort level that, yes, this is going to be a good guest for my property and I feel comfortable opening the home to them?
I don't know if you preach the same as me, but everyone has to be on a property management system. The property management system that I use, as soon as someone makes a booking, even on Airbnb or Vrbo, their first response is, hey, thanks for booking. You are not fully confirmed until you fill out this form. Link to a form that Airbnb does not cloak. And in that form, they have to fill in their information, their first name, last name, email address. They have to upload their ID. They have to take a selfie. And then our system will screen all their social medias. They'll screen for credit card fraud. They'll screen all this stuff. It is done all within minutes. So when you have these systems in place that drive the workflow of what it takes to screen a midterm rental guests, because our risks are higher, you can feel a lot more reassured that you're hosting the right person.
Yeah.
And of course, if you're still not comfortable with what you're seeing, you can ask questions like you normally would in a normal Airbnb reservation.
Right. Now, I'm curious if you're comfortable. So I use Superhog. Is that who you use? Or are you using someone else?
Well, Superhog is it's a checker, right? A fraud checker, but it's not the property management system.
No. So you're right. You're right. So I have Superhog integrated with my PMS.
Yeah.
So your property management software does that.
Yes. We integrate with AutoHost. And I did look at Superhog about 18 months ago, and it wasn't a good solution for the midterm rental space at the time. I don't know if it's changed since. Because you couldn't dive into deeper capabilities like credit checks and background checks.
Yeah, I was curious about that because I don't think we're scanning social media, but I'm like, that's a great idea.
Yeah, there's multiple levels of scanning, right? The AutoHost has the basic program, which does the initial thing I talked about, the selfie check, all that stuff, and the social media, and then the second part is being able to run a credit check if you want to. You can do a credit check, criminal background check. It costs extra for that. And then the last one is they can even do a world, what do they call it? It's like a world criminal database that they can have
Wow.
access to. So for those that are doing midterm rentals, for people that are hosting people from outside of the country, this could be a good solution. I haven't personally had to use it yet, but
Okay.
from what I understand, it connects to like some big criminal databases.
Interesting. That makes complete sense. For sure. For sure. So talk to me a little bit about, I want to dive deeper into the calendar piece of it because, in the short-term rental world, it is our bread and butter to try to get as large of a lead time as possible. Typically, you are able to charge the highest rates when you've got a longer lead time. For someone who is MTR focused first, do you utilize dynamic pricing in the same way that you utilize it in the short-term rental space?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. And your audience is going to hate this, but the answer is it depends.
Okay.
It depends on a lot of factors. Of course, location really matters and how much competition you have. I still use dynamic pricing. My PMS system is connected to Wheelhouse. I'm hoping they switch over to Price Lab soon. But right now we're on Wheelhouse and we don't do, calendar management is the most important thing you can do in the midterm rental space. So how we do it, if you're in the hybrid space, between now and the next 7 days, so today and the next 7 days, I accept 1-day reservations. Between 7 days and 14 days, I accept 2-night reservations. After 14 days, you're only allowed to book 30 days with me. And after 45 days, you're only allowed to book 60 days with me. So that will discourage people from making future bookings because today it's September 18th.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want someone booking for Thanksgiving.
Right.
Because if someone needs a booking tomorrow for the next 5 months, they're not going to be able to find it.
Right.
And by having these controls in place, I can actually open up my calendars for 365 days and people can see that my reservation calendar is completely open. And this is important because if you think about who we host in midterms, are people that have had water damage, they lost their house to fire, they are relocating for a temporary stay. So most hosts only open their calendar 3 months at a time, sometimes 6. But people in midterm rentals, they might need a year.
Right.
So being able to maximize your visibility by using control settings in Wheelhouse or Price Labs is really the true way to succeed in this space.
Now, I'm also curious about, let's say you have a guest who has rented a home for 3 months and perhaps they might need to extend. From your perspective, when you have that guest in, and let's say they are renting again for 3 months, are you keeping your calendar open after their anticipated checkout date? Or are you blocking the calendar because there's a likelihood that they might extend?
I don't need to block the calendar because my current settings say that 3 months from now, they're only booking 60 days. And chances of someone planning for a 60-day rental 3 days from now are slim to none.
Gotcha.
The alternative is to keep your calendar open, but raise your rates 3 months from now.
Okay.
Right? You could, maybe you're only charging $150 a night, but if they want to book in the future, then you may make it like $300 a night.
Right.
And honestly, if someone books at $300 a night 3 months from now, by all means, please.
Bring it on.
Bring it on.
Okay, that's great. That's great. Good to know. All right. Next question is, talk to us about the demand for midterm rentals, because I think as real estate investors, we've heard a lot about it in recent months, and I feel like it's gaining traction. Do you feel like there is an opportunity in some markets that there is saturation for midterm rentals? Or do you feel like we're so far off? Talk to me a little bit about that from your perspective.
I think midterm rentals is still in the early adoption phase.
Okay.
There are people that are on the cusp. what do I do? My short-term rental is not making any money. There's so much competition. Everything's more expensive now. I'm tired. I hate these bad guests. There's all these things that are accumulating into this desire to move into a less fuss, maybe even less money at some point, but just more freedom of time. And so midterm rentals is definitely gaining a lot of traction. And your question was what again?
Just about saturation. How do you anticipate that? Or do you feel like that's so far off, we'll revisit in a few years?
Midterm rentals will also become saturated. If in some markets it isn't already. And the reason why is because people are tired. Like I said, they're going to move it before selling their property, before selling off their furniture. They've already established their Airbnb reviews. They've already have a property that's furnished. The path of least resistance is just to change strategies. So they're going to move into a midterm because there's less red tape to begin with. You don't have to worry about city permits. You know, worry about hotel occupancy taxes. A lot of HOAs allow midterm rentals at 30 days and more. So it's the path of least resistance, and more people will come into the midterm rental space. And I saw this 2 years ago, which is why I thought it was important to develop Hestia. Because there are good properties out there and there are bad properties out there. And it's okay if you get a not so great property for a weekend stay. But if you're committing to 6 months or 3 months for that matter, you want a nice place. Something where the washer and dryer works, where it's clean, where you feel safe. And Hestia is out there to help differentiate the great properties from the mediocre ones.
Love that. Talk to me a little bit about the best type of single family home, or is there a best type? So the reason that I ask is that, where I live in a suburb, I'm 35 minutes away from downtown. And we have big homes, right? Downtown, which is obviously closer to the center of where people are working. A lot of the time you are working with much smaller homes. Is there a sweet spot as far as location and size of home compared to the center of an urban market?
I think it really depends on who you're trying to attract as a client. That should be number one. For instance, I have a single family home that's sitting on the cusp of a suburb where there's new homes and old homes. And mine's an older home, but there's tons of new homes going up. So I get people that are building a home staying in my house. And that's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath.
Okay.
Single story.
Okay.
That one has done unbelievably well. But if I were to recommend anybody to buy something that is single story. And the reason why is because 10,000 people are turning 60 every single day in America. So you want to be able to serve this clientele because, we field tons of insurance housing requests. 3 out of 4 is asking for single story.
Is that right?
Yep. The second thing is you need to use things like Price Lab or Wheelhouse to uncover what the competition looks like in your entire furnished rental market. So for instance, for Austin, most of our Airbnb properties are 3 bedrooms. So if I were to buy something today, why would I buy another 3-bedroom? I'd buy a 4-bedroom or a 5-bedroom because we're less of those. So as those people from the short-term rental space start trickling into the midterm rental space, you don't want them to saturate the 3-bedroom midterm rental. You want to be something different, which would be a 4-bedroom, single-story midterm rental.
Interesting. That's great. Great. That's very interesting about the single story. That surprises me.
Yeah. And if you're one of those flippers or renovators, like build ramps, do universal access, wider doorways, people will pay big money for that because the only other options for that are the first floor of a Hilton hotel, for instance. Right. Who wants to stay there for months at a time? They will go each mile to stay in your place. We hosted a stay in Fort Worth for, I think it was $11,000 a month because it was a universal access home.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm going to text my husband. He wants to build something. I'm going to...
Yeah. By all means.
That's great. What are your thoughts about the importance of being pet friendly in the midterm rental space?
So important. Unless you're hyperallergenic, right? But 49% of homeowners in the US have a dog. 29% have at least one cat. And midterm rental clients travel with their families. And their fur babies are considered family, including my own. I couldn't imagine relocating somewhere without my Oliver.
Right.
A big, goofy golden retriever.
Oh,
And he's my family. I wouldn't want to put him up in a kennel.
right.
I want him at home, and I want him in temporary housing where there's a fenced backyard. Where he can go out and do his business and come back in.
Right.
I don't want to take my dog out for a walk every single day or in the middle of the night if, stomach's not feeling well. I like the single family home space.
Right. Love that. What else do you feel like is important for people to consider if they are thinking about getting into the midterm rental space, perhaps coming from short-term rentals or even long-term rentals? What's important for them to be considering these days?
I think for me, the most important thing has been a property management system that drives the workflow. It costs about $50 a month. But there's technology that could save you time. Why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah.
Screen your clients or screen your guests, because in midterm rentals, now you're moving into tenancy. If you're not properly screening them, you're going to have a problem. If you don't have them sign a renter's agreement, you're going to have a problem. If you don't do regular cleanings, you're going to have problems. So there's so many things that you need to adapt to in the midterm rental space. But really, most importantly, is that renter's agreement. And in my workflow, it's all automated. Every guest signs an agreement, no matter where they make the booking.
Right.
And our agreements don't use the word tenant and landlord. They use the word guest and owner.
Yeah, for sure. Let's dive into the cleaning topic, because this is something that I've heard a lot of chatter about, especially with folks who have come from the short-term rental world and are leaning into midterm rentals. What is a best practice as far as cleaning goes for a 30-day stay or longer? How often should the cleaner be entering the property, and how do we best charge the guest for that if it's on the Airbnb platform?
Yeah. So corporate housing and Airbnb housing are a little bit different. If you are housing someone from the corporate housing world, like someone that's relocating with a Google or Apple or whatever, they will want cleaning once a week. And they'll want that baked into the price. But you cannot always tell on those from Airbnb. Those are usually direct bookings. But from the Airbnb space, there's two ways to approach it. One is to put it in other things to note that you require cleaning and that it's $150 a month, and then you will send them a bill for that. That's one way to do it. The second way to do it is to say you have no choice, that we're sending a cleaner and we'll schedule that the day you move in. And the reason why cleaners are important, because in short-term rentals, if someone stays at your house for 4 days, who cares? Your cleaner's going to be there in 4 days.
Right.
But in the midterm rental space, if they're staying for 6 months and they have pets and they have kids, you don't know if they're slobs.
Right.
You're in the hospitality business because you like having a place that's regularly cleaned. So, I mean, I've encountered a couple problems before. And I wish I'd done a better job in the earlier days to stay on top of the cleaning. So, but some clients are better than others, right? I love the families. I love the business workers. I don't like construction crews so much. That you just have a different level of cleanliness, I think. Some construction crews, right?
Sure.
So yeah, but it's important to get someone in there all the time. And if they refuse cleaning, at least go in there, knock on the door, or message them and say, hey, we need to change the filters.
The air filters. Yeah. Good. What do you see as next on the horizon in the midterm rental space?
Next in the horizon is a new OTA, a new online travel agency that is designed specifically for midterm rentals. And I can't talk so much about it at the moment, but there's bigger things brewing beyond Hestia. Hestia is the altruistic, the right thing to do, but it's not making anyone rich. It's really just, we're building a brand there. But the second part is really to provide a place where people can book reservations easily. They can find midterm rentals easily. They can sign agreements. Hosts can screen their guests, all automated through systems. And there's a real gap in the market for that right now.
Well, I can't wait to hear an update about that whenever you're ready to share.
Yeah. We'll jump back on. And I'll do the launch with you.
Let's do it. So Vivian, I want to move to the lightning round. Okay. So in the lightning round, I'm going to ask you some hopefully fun questions. And I want you to answer with the very first thing that comes to mind.
Sure.
First question is, what's your favorite place to vacation?
Ooh, I don't have one. I love everywhere that I visit. My most memorable recent one was Mexico City, but I'm heading to Barcelona next month.
Go girl.
So it'll be my 15-year wedding anniversary. So we're going to go eat our way through Barcelona.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Can I come?
Yeah.
I've heard that Barcelona in Spain, just in general as a country, is such a beautiful place to visit. And girl, next week, I'm celebrating 30 years. And so I got married when I was 3, just so you know. But we're going to St. Croix and on a cruise to celebrate our anniversary. That's in November and December. But I love traveling, and I haven't been to Spain, but it's on my bucket list.
Well, I'll tell you all about it. There's actually a flight deal right now. I think tickets are like $500.
You're kidding?
Yeah.
Wow.
Not kidding, but yes.
All right. What's one place you've never been that you want to visit?
One place I've never been, I want to go to Malaysia.
Okay. Now talk to me about that. Do you have connections there?
No, I'm just a huge foodie. Everything I do when it comes to vacation revolves around food, discovering cultures and talking to people through food. And Malaysia is one of those melting pots of Muslim, Christianity, Chinese, Indian, Singaporeans. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different cultures that reside in Malaysia. And I think it'd be really cool to see them all come together in one place.
So cool. And to eat all the different cuisines.
Yep.
So fun. All right, next question. What's one thing you know now that you wished you knew when you were starting out in the world of midterm rentals?
I wish I knew more about the insurance housing space when I first started. When I first started, I was attracting people that were relocating, building homes, and construction teams. And over time, I realized by taking a really expensive course that there was a bigger place for midterm rentals, and that is in the insurance housing space. And that's when I realized how important it was to build out something like Hestia, because if you were to have your house burned down or you had to move out due to water damage, the worst thing that could happen is to move into temporary housing only for it to be a huge disappointment. I mean, this happens all the time. You live and breathe this short-term rental world. You know that people show up, it's dirty, the sheets are nasty, the baseboards are dirty, they've never cleaned their fans, the appliances don't work, you can't access the parking, you can't get into the master bedroom closet. There's all these things that can happen in these Airbnbs that people try to book for these extended stays, and it's not all properties are meant for long stays. Not all properties are great for long stays. And that's what I thought, Hestia can really, really provide a better experience to these guests that have such traumatic things happen in their lives.
So good.
So good. I'm curious, what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
I think the best piece of advice I've ever been given was that when someone makes a booking with you on Airbnb, the terms and conditions are between the guest and Airbnb.
Mhm.
The terms and conditions are not between you and the guest. So signing on to a property management system is going to be a huge benefit to your midterm rental business because now there's a contract between you and the guest.
Amen, sister. All right, last question. What's one thing and or person that you're grateful for today?
This is going to sound cheesy, but I'm really grateful for my husband. I have always, my mom, I'm always grateful for. I've talked about her in many podcasts, but my husband has been so supportive in all that I do. And he helps me whenever I ask for it. And we just make a great team in this business.
So good. And what's your hubby's name?
James Keller.
Okay, James. Let's hope that you listen to this episode.
He never listens to any of these, so he'll never know.
All right, your secret is safe with us then.
Don't tell him I appreciate him.
All right, don't tell him. Vivian, we just so appreciate you. Thank you for all you're doing to educate people about the midterm rental space. I know for me, it's so fun to watch you and your business continue to grow and blossom, and just appreciate you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on here. And I can't wait to see you continue your journey to empower other women in this space.
Thank you.
Now, before you go, I want to give a quick shout out to some of the amazing ladies inside the Female Short-Term Rental Investors Facebook group. Just about an hour ago, actually, at the time I'm recording this, Anya Shar posted, so a midterm rental guest left after staying with us for 8 weeks. They had a dog and a cat. The cat was put in one bedroom with a litter box and a walk-in closet. Besides scratches on the door frame, the whole room smells like cat pee. What's your best enzyme cleaner to get rid of the owner? The next guest arrives this Saturday. And so far, 24 women have chimed in with suggestions. Lisa Cleanside says definitely would try the ozone machine. They work wonders. Rosie Usum says call a professional carpet cleaner. Andrea Hardwood says straight white vinegar works wonders. I've also heard good things about ozone machines. All great suggestions, ladies. Thanks for chiming in. And with that, I just want to wish you an amazing week ahead, and I will see you very soon.